If everyone's buying habits differ, why run marketing campaigns targeting every customer similarly? Although it is a general practice to segment customers by city, age, and gender, it is very likely that two people with the same characteristics will not have the same preferences, nor will their experience with your brand be the same. Loyalty managers of the most successful restaurant chains base their strategies on data. They have a team of loyalty experts that analyze customer information with the purpose of improving their experience in every interaction with the brand. This way, they optimize their marketing campaigns and increase the business profit. At Spoonity, we use sophisticated business intelligence to micro-segment your customer base and super-personalize the communication and experience between each one of them. We call this service Managed Loyalty. Managed Loyalty helps you focus your time on your core business, leaving the management of your rewards program to us. We design loyalty strategies for you, then implement customized tactics and campaigns. Finally, we evaluate the performance of each campaign, learning from the results, and pivoting as needed in the following action to optimize your rewards program and take your customer loyalty to the next level. Our Managed Loyalty team comprises loyalty experts, tactics coordinators, data analysts, and machine learning specialists. We help you save time and resources by defining your loyalty objectives, applying strategies to meet them, analyzing key metrics, conducting personalized segment marketing, and maximizing your loyalty program. We design different strategies according to the various stages of the customer's life cycle. This cycle begins when the customer registers for the program and continues when they make their first purchase. It evolves when the customer buys an additional or related product through cross-selling, and reaches its peak when the customer becomes loyal. A loyal customer consumes regularly and even recommends your brand to friends and family. Eventually, the customer could stop visiting your stores, and it is at that point you can use recovery, reactivation, and reconquest techniques to get them back to buy. As you can see, customers can go through different stages during their lifetime. Our responsibility is to execute the correct loyalty strategy to keep customers at their highest loyalty point for as long as possible, where they are loyal to your brand and products. Start using Managed Loyalty today and keep turning your loyal customers into brand ambassadors in a smarter and easier way. Spoonity, the future of loyalty.
And so today I've got Brock Murray and Jonathan Mill. Do you mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about where you're from?
Sure. John? Sure. Name's Jonathan Mill. I am a fractional chief marketing officer. So what that means is I help organizations who can't afford an executive full-time with the services they need on growth around marketing, sales, and product. And I'm also co-founder of Dash to Grow, which is an AI learning platform.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, Brock Murray. So I'm co-founder of SEO Plus, digital marketing agency. We're about 11 years in business now, and we help small, medium businesses with their marketing and helping them grow.
Cool. So today's discussion is really about AI and how it's impacting the industry, and I wanted to introduce or bring you to kind of share some of your perspectives. And the first thing I wanted to ask is, how's the marketing landscape evolved in the adoption of AI in recent years? What have you seen? Can you tell me a little bit about how that's transformed and some of the trends you're seeing?
Do you want to start? You want to?
You go. Sure. I was just talking to Brock actually before this. This is a fun conversation.
Like AI has been around for decades, right? Like let's call it what it is. And the technology that we are talking about primarily today is really around this thing around like conversational, generative AI. And it's a type of AI and that's based on large language models, right? So like, let's not put AI as like a whole umbrella and say this is a specific part. And what's happened really is that in the last basically 6 months, the models got to a point where they actually spit out more good stuff than bad. Right. So, I was speaking to Brock, if you think about AI models we used 5 years ago in marketing for writing, we were using spitters. They were changing out grammars, right, and verbs and stuff. And that's how it did AI to create a new piece of content. And that, lasted for about 6 to 18 months before Google realized people were using these and with content, right? And then today, we're using these language models. And what's interesting is that, everyone goes back to what we've always said with AI. It's going to replace humans. It's going to, change the world overnight. And the reality is it's not. It's going to help us get more effective. And all the stuff that we challenge with individually, AI can help improve it in some shape or form. So if you are a great writer and you want somebody to re-edit and just revisit what you wrote, or make sure that you don't have biases, you can ask it to correct those things for you. And if you are someone like me and you sometimes have writer's block, you could ask AI to help you get started on writing and stuff, right? So it's really, I've always felt like in today's world, the artificial should be replaced with augmented. Right? So it's augmented intelligence. So it's going to help us humans get there. Will it eventually replace us in some shape or form? Yes, there's certain things we do that it is much better suited for it than we are, right? And that is just life. Like, it's like a calculator. You know, we were replaced by calculators? No, but, you know, they're now in our daily lives.
Right. Yeah, it's a tool that you can use anytime you need it, and it just produces consistent results for you.
Yeah.
How about you, Brian?
Definitely. I mean, it's been a wild time, obviously, with, you know, ChatGPT has been taking the world by storm and stuff like that. And for us, we being like a digital agency, we got like, you know, 50 team members who are doing all kinds of things in market every day, right? From like developing content, writing code, you know, working with analytics and data. So like for us, it's very, very relevant. And I think just for any business, like it's just a good way of being able to, you know, basically, like you said, like augmenting their existing, like be able to, so they can spend more time on strategy and take out some of those like, you know, nitty gritty tasks. For example, like working with large data sets, you know, for evaluating like customer trend, personalization, like any of these things. I think there's a lot of like benefits there. You know, even for example, when we're talking about marketing, like developing content, being able to not like develop the content itself, but actually just come up with maybe the outline and then fill it out from there, right? There's like so many applications. And for me, it's really exciting because, you know, being in the industry for, you know, 10 plus years, sometimes you get kind of bored and I always hate playing. Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, it's kind of fun again. So I think it's also a lot of opportunity, but I also think at the same time, like with that, I think there's a lot of risk that comes with it. And like, you know, I think the risk is worth the reward, but I also think like there are people who are a little bit closed-minded or maybe just not aware of like the benefits of the opportunity. So I think it's just being able to have those conversations.
It's a great segue into my next question, which is I'm really curious to hear about some of the success cases in terms of implementation and how you're seeing people really implement it effectively. You know, there's always going to be those who are hesitant to adopt the technology, but I'm curious to hear more about those who have ventured out and made an effort to leverage either large language models or other forms of AI and have done so successfully.
It's interesting because you talk about implementation. And I think we haven't finished implementing this yet. So like ChatGPT is the fastest growing platform ever on record, right? It went from 0 to 100 million users in the shortest period of time. And it's still in implementation mode, right? It was not the first one to roll out a browser-based ChatGPT, right? It was not. It's still figuring out things. I think everyone's still figuring things out, right? So I think anybody who's in this or watching this video or listening and has to realize you're not behind the times. You are not missing the boats. We are just scratching the surface. What I find what's interesting is the announcements of really cool ideas of what you can do with it. So in the retail space, there's an announcement at one large chain that's going to use it for the most obvious and most useful use case, which is ordering at the window. So when you do the drive-through, natural language programming is absolutely perfect to translate my speaking into an order and go back and forth until you get it right. So that human job does not need to be there, right? And then it's like, well, we're getting replaced by AI. I'm like, that's not the highest paying, needed job in the history of humanity, right? So it's okay if that one gets replaced, just like we had the debate with automatic tellers, right? So I think we're going to see those types of things happen. But that to me makes a lot of sense. There's all kinds of things around personalization. I've seen it. The way I personally use it now is anytime I'm working on something, I pull up ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion or one of the tools, and I put a prompt in real quick to help me. So just for fun, for this interview, I put it in. I put your questions into the prompt, and I was very disappointed with the answers. It was, and you say, well, is it the technology or is it the prompt? I would blame my prompt. I think if I spent more time prompted it, I would get to something a little bit more interesting, but it doesn't have the context of this meeting. It doesn't have my history context. It doesn't have the context of things that I've done with Brock that could be interesting in the conversation, right? So it's not going to answer this in a great way, but it was fun to see it talk about it, right? And we use it for everything. Like if you're doing an award ceremony, put in your award speech. If you're doing an email to all staff,
Right.
right? Have it review it,
Right.
right? There's just like everything you can think about. It can just augment your performance to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What about you, Brock? Successful implementations or experiments that you've seen different businesses use?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've been using AI tools for several years now. Specifically, probably the first ones we started using would have been like paid advertising, right? So, obviously, like even like running campaigns, making, bid adjustments, evaluating the performance of ads and creatives, to be able to kind of identify where we should kind of boost budget or reduce budget. But now there's more. So you talked about like personalization. So for example, obviously there's a lot of different tools that can do this. I know Adobe has their own kind of AI personalization tool, but basically where you can start to collect data on users, establish, okay, what are their trends? For example, when do they like to make purchases? Early in the morning? Is it late at night? What are the types of things they like to buy at those times, right? So being able to, I guess, hit them with the right offer at the right time is obviously going to increase your conversion rates, right? Lead to a better user experience. What kind of does tie into like, the loyalty aspect of all, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's so many applications, but definitely like for us, paid advertising's been a big one, and the email marketing as well, same idea. So just being able to have those connections with customers with the right message at the right time.
Right. Are there particular tools, and just gonna ask a little bit more about that on the paid advertisement? Obviously, Google's been doing this for a long time. Do they make tools accessible that can make that easier for either organizations like yourself or businesses who are managing their own paid advertisements?
Yeah, Google, they've been integrated tons of these AI things into their technology and into their actual manager. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Google has their own priorities, right? So some of the recommendations that might spend more money. Spend more money, right? Yeah. Increase. Yeah. So their AI versus your AI. It's not like exactly, right? So you gotta, tread lightly there. But there's tons of third-party tools where you can actually, integrate your campaign, and then it will use its own proprietary technology to kind of give you recommendations that hopefully are more beneficial to you than just Google themselves.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's always one of the things you got to keep in mind is where the priorities lie and make sure that your strategy is still aligned with what feedback you're getting. But I actually quite liked your comment with kind of making sure that you check with the prompts anytime you want to. You have an idea and you want to just run it by something. I actually set ChatGPT as my homepage, and whenever I'm going on the internet, think first. Can I use this tool to get an answer quick? And so it's an attempt that I've made to change my behavior to think more about how I can use AI.
I think that's super important. Like we were talking earlier about how you're thinking about giving every employee access to this stuff. And I think that is a huge leap forward for organizations, right? And it's a cost. It's a monthly cost, and it's all employees, so that's a fairly large investment. But the way I view at it is, I think everybody today will get a 20 to 40% increase in efficiency by playing with these tools. It's going to take us 20-40% of time to get to that efficiency because there's a learning curve. There's also a new tool out every day now, like every single day. So I'm tracking AI tools, and literally there's about 100 a week being launched. And the reason for that is you no longer need a machine learning expert or an ML resource in your team. You need a software developer. And your software developer does not need to be a deep software. I'm talking about APIs. And that's it, right? So that's why you have all these tools just scratching the surface of it. So recommending tools, I think, is a little challenging right now because I don't know which ones are going to last.
Right.
I think which ones are going to evolve, and a lot of them are just Me Too clones, really, right? And so we're just playing, and playing with those are fine. And most of them will offer you a free trial, and you can go in and get some free data, which is great.
Yep.
Then you have to worry about your data being leaked, right? So you have to choose which data you share. But there's so much just to experiment with. That's the day and age we're in right now, is the experimentation.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's an exciting time, and
very exciting.
Yeah, and Brock, you touched on something in terms of personalization, and how the right message, the right time, and how that can impact the conversion rates that you're seeing. I'm curious, what are maybe some specific examples or things where you've seen businesses personalizing their marketing efforts and generating a higher ROI as a consequence of that? So just curious to hear a little bit more about that.
I mean, there's definitely tons of examples. So e-commerce specifically, there's always opportunities there, right? Where they can, collecting data on your order history, again, on your like we said, like trends, like what year, I'm prone to order this type of thing at this, time in the month, whatever it might be. From a retail perspective, we have a retail kind of phone repair chain we work with. So, they know, okay, you come in there, you've gotten a repair. Let's maybe follow up in a couple weeks. Hey, how did it go? Maybe let's offer them a deal on a new device, right? So there's a lot of opportunities there where, you have information. It's being able to leverage that information on kind of trying to guess what their next step is, right? Like,
Right.
What does that story look like? So that's been a big thing as well.
Yeah. And just even the whole, I know ChatGPT is the new fresh thing in the large language models and how that really fundamentally works of just predicting the next word. I find the same thing when it comes to purchases and transactions of, what's that predicting the next word or the next transaction that they're going to make, and then how you can expand that out and make estimates on lifetime value and then kind of predictive purchases. So it's certainly a fascinating thing, and I'm curious, Jim.
But that's a key thing to understand about this technology. These large language models is based on probability, not based on a decided outcome.
Right.
We talk about weights, but the weights are in the model to enhance probability. But literally, as it writes, it says then the next word, the probability is ban, or whatever the word would, right? And so that's something for us to understand. The other thing that we need to understand is that every time you put in a prompt, you get a different result. Every time, right? Not like Google search where you put in a prompt and page one stays consistently the same unless you change region or IP address or device sometimes, right? So that's really interesting. So when you talk about kind of recommendations and stuff, we're going to go from recommendations to personalizations. What's also interesting is 10 years ago, I was working at a company where we're working on a recommendation engine through AI. And what's fascinating is that you can replace that with throw your data into ChatGPT and it will start to create recommendations on vectors that you never even thought about. Yeah. And that's where, so my aha moment with ChatGPT was this. So I've been playing with it for a very long time. And at 3.5, I put in all my competitors' reviews and I started to ask questions.
Okay.
Most common words, sentiment. Remember the startup here that used to do sentiment analysis? They had 10 engineers, all PhD, spent 7 years building up a tool, and I did sentiment analysis.
Right.
Me, or a technical guy,
Yeah.
asking a question. The amount of research that you can do competitively now on that data set that's publicly available was wow. Right? Yeah. That's what I knew. This AI is onto something.
Right.
That's when I decided to invest more time into it.
Right. Yeah, no, it is amazing kind of the capabilities that can give you, even if you don't necessarily possess those skills yourself, you can now have access to them kind of through this model that it's available really to anybody. It's just how you use it that it's the limiting factor.
Yeah.
So have either you guys tried any of the plugins, like the web browsing plugin?
Do you have access to that?
Yeah, I have access to that. I have a code interpreter. Okay, so first of all, the web browser is really cool. Now, if you don't have access to it, obviously you just copy paste whatever you would into there. But you could say like crawl the web page. So I said like, for example, crawl my website and read the content, get an idea of what we do, and then give me some, critical feedback on, and then I would feed information about my audience.
Right.
My audience is multi-location businesses, this type of size, this geographic area. These are some of their challenges, pain points.
Right.
Can you evaluate my content and tell me some of the gaps I might have? Things like that, right? It'll crawl your site, right? Or for example, I had to write a press release. I was like, can you go crawl this change.org petition, come up with a press release, boom, like this. So like the browsing is insane. The second one is code interpreter, which they just came out with. I got on the alpha. You guys have to check. Nuts. Okay, so basically, it actually has like a Python engine, so it can actually like run code scripts through the actual chat widget. And there were some examples where people can basically you can upload files. So you can upload a CSV with large data sets. Where right now there's limitations with based in. So you can upload that. So let's say you have 1 million records. You can upload it. And then first thing you'll do will be like, oh, this is a file about this. Here's the columns you have. Then you'll say, you can actually run like data analysis on it. You can actually create graphs within the platform. And then people have even done like created animated GIFs in there, all kinds of things. So it's mind-blowing and it's
so that's what's most interested to me is the announcement of Google added it across all the products.
Right.
And the product that I'm most interested for us marketers is the Google Sheets.
Yeah.
It's because now you talked about personalization or segmentation or whatever. you can just start to ask questions against this data set. Right. And it will just pull up the answers. This is something that me and a friend of mine started 10 years ago, actually. Created a company called When Apps Fly. And we were trying to create a natural language program interface for Google Sheets. It was actually Microsoft Sheets then, but yeah. And it was always our dream to say there's so much functionality in these tools. Now it's just a matter of asking.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Nah, and just even as you're talking about the code plugin, I can't help but feel that I'm going to watch this video in 2 or 3 years and be like, oh my God, we were so... It just feels like we're moving so fast that, the things that we talk about today are going to be just the bare bones kind of, wow, that's what they thought was interesting. Wait till it even comes back.
Because right now, a good example is that the data is good to generate kind of the first generation of the code. Right. But once you start loading up your entire files, your entire data set, and it starts to understand the dependencies of your own software, then it gets really powerful, right?
Yeah. Well, your segmentation piece sounds just fascinating. Yeah. The number of opportunities and insights that, may be made available, because that's something that we often see is capacity is a big limiter factor, right? How do I dig into this data and make the most out of it? And, you can do it if you have a certain skill set, but it takes a lot of time. And if you're able to do that much more rapidly, then you can really capitalize on that opportunity much more fast, or much more quickly than you could as somebody has to dedicate a lot of time to it. So, that's a fascinating example of how you could use this. I wanted to ask, in terms of, well, actually, we just talked about that, about the segmentation piece. That was my next question, so you jumped the gun on me. Yeah, I guess I'll ask that one too, Brock. Have you seen different use cases of segmentation in terms of, either PPC advertisements or things like that? Like, how are those tools evolving when it comes to segmentation in online audiences?
So there's a few pieces of that. So segmentation, I think, even when it comes to your website, so now what businesses started doing is trying to segment the users based on, so for example, for us as a digital marketing agency, we serve different types of businesses. So we're local businesses, we're big commerce businesses, national B2B businesses. So obviously, each of those businesses has its own pain points, its own challenges, it speaks its own language, right? You're dealing with you might be dealing with a business owner when it comes to local. For e-commerce, and it might be someone who's more technical. B2B, definitely a different skill set. So being able to classify those users and visitors when they visit your website, maybe again, so for example, asking the question, hey, what type of business are you? I'm a local business, I'm a restaurant. But now the content on the site you're going to be serving them is going to be different, right? Without having to necessarily send them to a different page, you can do that within your site. So that's one way, and of course, that's going to lead to them feeling more connected to your content, right? You being able to serve them different types, maybe different case studies, different things that are going to appeal to them. That's definitely going to help your conversion rate. So that's one piece when it comes to maybe the website. The other thing when it comes to with the paid ads aspect, I think it's more of like a funnel approach. So for example, being to look at, okay, what type of ads am I going to be serving to people who are in the awareness stage, right, versus people who are further down the funnel, closer to that conversion rate. We can establish where they're at, because for example, if I'm running an ad on Google, let's say I'm running an ad for a local Italian restaurant, okay? They visit my website, maybe they don't make a booking. Okay, so now what I can do is I can have like a remarketing campaign that will actually know, okay, this person visited this page, they were interested in this type of meal, so now I can actually retarget them with a specific ad. It's going to cater to them, and then maybe come back to make a reservation, right? So that's more so in the funnel approach versus like segmenting, but it can also help with, bringing them closer to that conversion, whatever.
For sure.
I think it's a good point to remind ourselves again, like you think about replacement, right? This is not replacement. What AI is going to do for ads or content, writing, and all those things, that's going to increase the volume at which we have to do. So if you want to be good on ads now, you're not going to create these big ad sets with, big cluster of words and stuff. You're going to be very niche, because we already know ad prices have gone way up in the last 2 years, right? Yeah. The cost per click has gone way up. So the only way to go down is to find longer tail, more targeted, more opportunities. And the only way to do that is through AI, not just to help us identify what those are, but actually to create the content, to create the image, to create the GIF now, or the, so AI, like the way I look at it is I look at my team on ads and I think, okay, last year we did X amount of ads per quarter. And I assume this year we should be able to double that.
Right.
Same team, same dollar amounts, double it. and then increase all of our return on spending because it's all more targeted.
Right.
Right. And you should be able to turn things on and off faster now.
And I mean, can you tell me a little bit about how you're doing that? Like, even Brock, you were mentioning the dynamic content. There's definitely huge opportunities in terms of your own properties, like your website, and so I'm just curious, where do you see that going, and or what are people doing today in order to kind of leverage that? It just seems like a tremendous opportunity.
I mean, when it comes to ads specifically, that's one of the things that honestly Google has done a really good job with, like natively in their business manager, is being able to, you would put in like 15 headlines, you put in 5 images, and it will kind of figure out, right? It will know what to serve to that user based on their trends. Or you could have a video ad and a text ad or a display ad, same idea. Like it will be able to know, okay, well, they've gone onto YouTube, I'm going to serve them this type of content. If they're on a different website, I'm going to serve this type of content. So natively within Google, I think they've done a really good job of that, aside from all this new live things like that. But again, there are other tools that you can use to augment it. We talked about like dynamically creating ads. Yeah. Like that stuff can really cut down the amount of time dealing with a lot of data, things like that. But that's what we've seen too when it comes to actually creating some of this ad. It's almost to a sense gone a little bit more simple. I think it sounds weird, but it actually has to actually help with the actual overall intent. So yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting. Like, what do you think?
I just think we're going to find more animations that like people are going to go crazy. And then what happens is human nature, we will adapt and be like, we don't like all of the flash. We're going to want to go back to simple, which I call it skinny tire fat. Right. And so like that's, but when you think about long-term, like really long-term, you start to ask yourself, how far are we away from everything being interactive?
Right.
So you're talking about landing pages of people, and we used to have a landing page for this industry, for this persona, for this stage of the journey. And we talked about chatbots for decades, right? And we have to realize the last decade, chatbots were simply decision trees. And they call them AI, but it was like, based on this decision, you go this way, this way, this way of the tree, right? And it's like, pick your journey. But now, the programming that was expensive, figuring out the right journey is expensive. And it was always usually from our perspective as the marketer, not really the user. With this new user interface, just keep thinking about right now ChatGPT or these LMs as a user interface. It's going to remove a whole bunch of stuff that we were used to in the past, right? So an ad could now just be an interactive widget. We've never seen this before, but imagine asking a question, not going to a landing page and interacting with the ad. Right? We've seen some of these kind of ideas with bus stops and a few other places where you have physical ad. We're not far away from that digitally. Same thing with landing pages. You might just show up and be like, ask your questions and we'll answer everything you need to know about our products or what you want to do today. We will serve you versus you have to find your way across this massive website. Right.
It's super fascinating. I feel like we could talk about this for ages, and I really appreciate you guys contributing and sharing some of your insights. How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. LinkedIn, Jonathan Milne. That's simple.
Yeah, same on LinkedIn, Brock Murray, and Twitter at SEOWiz.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Christian.
All right. Brock and John for participating in the panel discussion. It was a really pleasure to chat with both of them. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be opening up for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions around AI and its impact on marketing, more than happy to answer any of those questions. Feel free to input them into the YouTube chat, and we'll just read through them and answer them as they come in. So just give it a minute here while the chat questions come in. And as I say, if you have any questions that you want to ask myself, I'm more than happy to answer them. Just enter them directly into the chat section of YouTube on the live stream, and I'll read through them and give a response. So I see here one. How can AI help predict loyal customers' behavior and retain them? So in terms of retention of customers and helping making predictions around loyalty customers,
We see a few different applications of it. So the first is predictive analytics and looking at clustering of customer purchases. So we may look at the types of products that customers are buying, and then other customers who have bought similar products, as well as other products that that customer maybe hasn't made a purchase. And so we may make that prediction that this customer may also enjoy this other product, and use that as a measurement or a tool to encourage them to purchase that product. The other one is around segmentation. So AI gives you the ability to really hone in and segment customers in a unique and dynamic way. So leveraging AI and machine learning, you can really hone in on specific customer segments. In our advanced analytics dashboard, you can start to see some of those in the strategy map, and it gives you specific insights in how you can target those customers and use those segments in order to derive results inside your loyalty program. And next is churn. So churn is a classic one inside the loyalty program. Oftentimes, people will wait until a customer has fallen into that churn category. And what the churn prediction will allow you to do is start to see indicators before the customer has actually churned and stop coming into the restaurant, and use that as an opportunity to start to change that behavior before they actually churn. So those are a couple ways that you can use predictive analytics and AI in order to enhance what you're doing inside your loyalty program. This is an interesting one. So what are the ethical considerations when using AI in customer loyalty marketing? So there's a few things that come to mind. And the first and foremost is transparency when it comes to the tools and how you're leveraging customer data. So you typically see something like this inside of the terms of service. And what you want to do is really just communicate to customers that you're leveraging the information that you're gathering in order to personalize the experience and deliver, a customized experience. And you may even list some of the partners that you're working with, be it Google or AWS or Spoonity. And that kind of transparency really builds trust with your customers, and that's really what ultimately you want to do through communication. The other one is around security. So something that we often will see is information. You want to make sure you're working with a trusted provider like Spoonity, who is working also with trusted providers to make sure that your data is always in a secure environment. The other thing that you want to do is when you're working with the data, you just want to make sure you've got good policies and practices around managing that information. So, a classic thing is just exporting all of your customers and then, emailing that to yourself or emailing it to another colleague or a third-party partner. That's really not best practice because that email and that attachment and all that personal data is now, stored in that attachment forever. And you want to be careful about that kind of thing and make sure that you're not putting data in a place that could potentially be compromised. So you want to keep customer information secure at all times and be conscious about how you're handling it. The last one is kind of an interesting thing. It's really around, as an engineer, one of the things that I often find myself doing is optimizing all the time. And so you start to get the segment and you start to hone in on it and focusing, how can I do better at this? How can I target that better? How can I engage with this customer better? And one of the things that you need to be careful about is kind of discriminating against other groups as a consequence. So I'll give a simple example with our advanced loyalty or advanced analytics. There's the upsell category. And these are people who have demonstrated a high propensity to spend with you in the past and are likely going to spend money with, or, have the ability to spend more money with you. It's an enticing category where you may say, okay, I'm going to target this customer group and I'm going to encourage them with this coupon or this incentive or send this special award link through to them. You want to be careful about optimizing them at the neglect of everybody else, because ultimately, if you're discriminating against people who have or towards people who have a high disposable income against those who maybe don't, there could be some ethical considerations there where you're promoting, incentivizing, and offering rewards and incentives only to those that have a lot of money, and things like that are things that you can easily kind of get caught up when you're trying to optimize all the time. You may just want to take a step back every once in a while and think about the impact or the actions that you're taking inside of your marketing initiatives and make sure that you're ultimately treating everybody fairly inside of your program. So it's just something to keep in mind and kind of reflect on every once in a while. Um, all right, next question. Can AI help improve customer satisfaction and loyalty? And if so, how? Um, so in terms of customer satisfaction, this is one of the areas that I think has tremendous potential. And I think we're going to see a lot of shifts in terms of how people are doing customer support, for example, or customer service. The what we've seen with ChatGPT GPT is that you can really offload or augment a lot of your customer support capabilities by just putting in the question and then getting a response back. And I think you're going to see more of that where we've got kind of this fire hose of information and feedback and communication coming from our customers, and we want to provide rapid responses to them. I think we're going to see a lot of evolution in terms of customer service and being able to respond to customers more quickly. I myself have personally experimented with automated workflows where a customer request comes in, AI is evaluating it, and then is making a suggestion. Should we add 50 points onto this customer's account? And you can just approve it, and then it happens, and then you can send a response back to that customer. So it's just, I think there's going to be a lot of optimization in terms of customer service and getting back to customers quickly. A few other areas would be definitely personalization. Obviously, when it comes to um, satisfaction, I'll never forget a time I was in a grocery store and I was standing there. I was buying some products for a cake that I was baking for my wife, and all the products that I had in my basket were for baking a cake. And it just made me think about, this is my personality, or this is what I'm representing in this transaction. And I looked at the person behind me and the person in front of me, and they just had very different things in their basket, and just it kind of highlighted to me that every transaction tells a story. And I'm making a cake for my wife, and this other person's doing something else, and maybe they're hosting a party or something like that, and bringing all their friends in from around town. And I think the more we can hone in and communicate to that person's particular uh, story is really what's going to separate good marketing from great marketing. And I think there's a ton of potential in terms of personalization. Everybody talks about right message, right time, that kind of thing. But I think still a long way to go to really capture that person's story and really communicate directly to them. And I'm personally very excited about what can be done there. Um, we already have some tools that are supporting that. Again, with our advanced segmentation, you can start to target customers in a more unique and personalized way. But I think there's a lot more that we're going to see in the next coming months and years. And then, as I said, segmentation is one piece, but sentiment analysis is another. So this kind of goes back into the behavior piece and how we're getting so much information. Sometimes it can be tough to digest all that. The sentiment analysis will be around evaluating feedback and seeing, what are the themes? What are the kind of messages that I'm starting to get consistent feedback on? And then how can you take action on that? So that's something we've been experimenting with internally, and we're excited about, the potential of what's showing, but really evaluating the sentiment of what customers are saying, and breaking that down into kind of actionable items is where I think you're going to see another leap forward in customer satisfaction and operations within your business. Yeah, so in terms of the segmentation, for sure, I think there's tremendous potential in terms of segmentation, and it's definitely an area that we've been investing in. So certainly, you know, look forward to presenting more tools that are going to make merchants' lives easier and provide some extra capabilities when it comes to segmentation. So very excited to when we're able to bring that to the public. Okay, so if there are any more questions, feel free to reach out, either myself or if you want to ask one of our guests, by all means, send it over our way, and I'll be happy to forward it along to either John or Brock. And again, if you have any questions around managed loyalty, more than happy to have a discussion about how it can support your business and some of the successful results that we've seen with merchants that are already leveraging managed loyalty. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure having you on today's live chat, and I hope you got some value from the discussion today and look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thanks a lot. Take care.